Welcome back to another and finally lighthearted episode of What They Don't Say. So far we covered some pretty serious stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of the news just tends to be serious. Once in a while, the Democrats will throw us something we can have a little bit of fun with, and boy, we got one now. It's got to do with the Democrat reproduction. Yeah, I know, they do enough work at that you wouldn't think anybody else would need to, but there's a real crisis situation building here, folks, in left-wing America. Most of us were unaware of it until now, but it is a disaster for them. It seems that they're so busy effing everything else up, they don't have enough time left to screw each other. I wasn't aware of the fact that when Trump first went into office in his first term, it really did result in a drop in Democrat babies being born. All those women, they swore that, we're not going to sleep with any guys. By God, maybe they didn't. The only data I could find covers from 2016 to 2018, but there were 38,000 fewer births in the demographic group for the Democrats in the childbearing years. How about that? I don't know if they were just depressed. It's probably not easy to have sex when the girl's laying there crying, or the guy is. Maybe both of them were. It probably takes the fun out of a lot of things. But, oh well, that's their problem. I don't care what kept them out of the sack. I'm just glad they did it because, historically, they tend to outbreed conservatives. About every demographic group of Democrat voters outbreeds conservatives. The problem conservatives have with this is they tend to plan their babies. Sure, everybody has their accidents, but by and large, people who consider themselves conservatives, they do plan their families. They decide, well, let's buy the house first. Let's do this, let's do that, let's save up a little money. Whereas the Democrats, they just shoot and score. I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of thought going into it, when you see them having a baby and leaving high school at 16, and the next thing you know, they've got 3 of them by the time they're 21 with 2 or 3 different baby daddies. But the Democrats have long been outbreeding us until Trump came along. How about that? There's a blessing in disguise. They've been sacrificing the future lives of their own supporters for a long time with the abortion. That's one of the arguments that goes into the abortion issue is you're killing off your future Democrats, but they thought they would solve that by just going ahead and importing a bunch of illegals. But they've killed off over 40 million of their own babies. They're not going to replace that with an open border program, especially now that that's getting reversed. So it doesn't do them a lot of good to cry their way through the nights when they need to be making a few babies, but hey, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not complaining. It's kind of funny. They say every cloud has a silver lining. Let's look at the cloud of the trans problem that we've got right now. For such a small amount of the population, we've certainly had our share of troubles because of the transgender movement. One of the problems we're not having is an increase in childbirth. You got to hand it to these people. There's another saying, God's the one that put the rose on the end of a thorny branch. Well, the rose on this branch is the fact that they aren't breeders. You got to give them that. They've decided to take themselves out of it. They got themselves out of the process. Seriously, I think we've been missing the boat on this one. These are the only Democrats that are guaranteed not to breed. What are we doing? We should be encouraging this. We should be supporting these people. Conservatives should get together with a GoFundMe account. Whack a willy for Democrats that want to have trans surgery. Let's do it. We should fund them right up to the point when the doctor gets done stitching up the open wound. At that point, they're done. They're out of the equation. There won't be another generation of that nutcase bloodline. It's like you guys sit over there and reproduce. That's one thing I always thought about a lot of these social political arguments is If someone is conducting a type of behavior that, if copied by everyone in society, it would destroy mankind, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. If your habits, adopted by everyone, would wipe out mankind, is that really a good idea? One thing about the trannies is they're not raising tranny kids. I haven't heard about any of them adopting yet. I suppose it's probably going on. But they're not making any babies. Maybe they're grabbing up a few extras that are out there. But I don't even know how that process would work. I mean, how would you go about it? I suppose they probably have trans clubs where they go meet each other. I can't see that being a very good line. You know, out in a bar on a weekend, get the idea that maybe you'd like to have a date for the night. Saying, hi, I'm trans probably isn't the best pickup line, depending on what bar you're in. But now that doesn't really seem like a great line. Maybe they just meet each other at the rallies. Maybe that's why they all turn out. I remember Saturday Night Live, back when they first started, they were funny. They did a skit with these newlyweds, and they were laying underneath the covers. I think it was Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd. They were laying under the covers, talking about the fact that they'd waited to have sex. And she looks over at him and says, I'm sorry, I know this is our honeymoon, but we've got a problem. He said, what's that, dear? And she says, I'm a smoothie. I'm like a Barbie doll down there. And he got this big look of relief on his face, and he says, oh my God, I didn't know what I was going to tell you, honey. He says, but I'm a Ken. She said, you're a smoothie too? And they both smiled and just cuddled up and went to sleep. Maybe that's what the trannies do. Hey, I'd love to take you home, but just so you know, I got all my equipment sliced off. Cost me a lot of money, but I got it all gone. How do they get together? I don't know. There's a lot of things I really don't want to know. The good thing about it, well, wait a minute. Do trannies get with other trannies? Would that even make sense? I don't know. This is all pretty confusing. There are probably some questions that are best left unanswered, but I don't know what they use for a pickup line. I'm sure they're getting it worked out. There are some things, I guess, that they could participate in, but we don't really want to go there either. But, you know, the jelly babies, they don't grow up. 90% of them, even if they weren't trans, they'd be losers that weren't breeding anyway. I mean, you look at these people. You got the 30-year-old, pudgy, super pale-faced white guy that doesn't look like he's ever been out in the sun. If he got a callus, he'd go to the doctor. Living in mom's basement. What's the chances of him doing much of anything anyway? I see these people blowing into the microphones at the rallies, raising hell, standing up there in their t-shirts. It's the only place they could take a stage. It's the only place where they would get any recognition. These people, let's be honest, most of those guys look like they couldn't get laid in a whorehouse with a fistful of money anyway. They might as well cut it off. Just don't come to us saying that you need special rules because somehow chopping yourself up makes you special. A special protected class. Well, you're not protecting yourself. Why should we? Kind of like the people at the Star Trek conventions. Do they really want to have a date anyway? But the best thing about it, it's the one Democrat demographic that isn't breeding. You got to take your wins where you find them, folks. And this is a big one. This is a big one because left to themselves, they would run out of themselves. As it is, I hope that they're not adopting other babies. I'm sure they probably are. In a couple of states, you can guess which ones. But at least they're not out there making new ones. Anyway, that's probably too much to think about already. It's hard to dance around a subject like this without going to places where your head really doesn't want to go. But we did. Take the win, feel good, then go wash your head out with something else. You all have a good night. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. Hey, send us a comment if there's a topic that you want covered. Let us know. As always, may God continue to bless this great nation, especially you breeders. Because without the likes of you, none of us would be here.